Keep yourself in the loop of everything football. Listen to Alex and Jeremiah on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello there, I'm Jeremiah.
I am Alex, always and forever here.
Dedicated to college and NFL football. The latest football news on and off the field. NFL draft trade rumors. We've got you covered from the NFL, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything else in between. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Thank you for tuning to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football from the latest science dishes, breakout stars, and all the news in between. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
Yep, I'm Alex. Hey.
And I'm Anthony.
What's going on?
What's going on, man?
How you guys doing?
Yeah. Very good. How are you, Anthony?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
I am doing great.
I'm good too.
Just a little tired.
Yeah, you look a little tired today.
Yeah, I am.
It's okay though.
That's nice to say.
No, like in a good way. Like I can tell. Like
yeah, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
He's yawning.
I see.
You know, not like he looks like he's half asleep. Yeah, he's yawning. Yeah.
Yes.
How you doing, Jeremiah? You doing good?
Yeah.
How's your week been?
It has been okay.
You excited for tomorrow?
Yeah, and I'm excited for tonight too. Because on an unrelated note, we have the wild card game, the National League wild card game in baseball.
And all three of us here are Giants fans. So,
so I am excited for that, and I have the baseball show today. So that's a kind of excited. I'm actually excited for that show.
Yeah, I would be too.
And of course, you asked me if I'm excited for tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
That's because of the Thursday night game. The 49ers are playing, and I'm not actually excited for that game at all. But anyways, let's move on. That's all I'm going to say. But we'll talk about tomorrow.
Oh, man. Yeah. Okay, well, today we're talking on our normal Wednesday format. We're talking one segment first, which is Josh Gordon. We've been kind of just having more news we figured we'd rather talk about. Plus, the Monday, Tuesday shows are always busy with game recaps and previews and all that good stuff. So we're talking Josh Gordon, who is back on indefinite suspension, checks himself into a rehab facility. We'll get into that a little bit, whether or not he's just done, if this is really spelling the end for Josh Gordon or not. And then we'll take a break. We'll come back. We have our For Real segment in which one of us each has our own team and or player that we ask, are they for real? And then we take our last break, come back, and we'll do our Wide Left Wednesday segments, in which is kind of our wacky news of the week. It consists of me telling a story about Steve Young, I believe basketball a little bit. Is that who is this guy you want to talk about?
The guy is Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Okay. Oh, you said the name right. Okay.
There you go. And
I said it right.
Yeah, you
and
said
Jeremiah talking about the Browns game this weekend. So we're pretty excited. But let's start with Josh Gordon. Like I said, Josh Gordon is back on indefinite suspension after checking himself into a substance abuse program, a rehab facility, as it were, for an alcohol problem. Wasn't even marijuana, which was what he was once originally suspended for. It's alcohol, which at times when you quit one thing, at times you can start another. I know I got my buddy to quit smoking cigarettes. He started chewing tobacco, you know. I said, well, I'll take one over the other because now I don't have to smell like smoke, you know. But, yes, so unfortunately he does have an issue apparently now with alcohol as well. When I saw this, I thought a couple of things. I said, man, this is another big blow. He was just getting ready to come back. But at the same time, I'm happy that he knows he needs to do this for him because he's just kind of in a tough spot right now.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you on this. Well, I really do. And Josh Gordon was one of the most electrifying players when he was fully active before we even heard about all this, like, off-the-field stuff in his NFL career. Because remember, his off-the-field issues goes back all the way to his career in Baylor as well. That's why he was dropped really low in the draft the year he got into the league. And I'm really glad Josh Gordon is finally starting to get his life back on track. I'm kind of mad that it took him kind of this long, but he's only 25, so I do think this isn't the end for Josh Gordon. I just feel he's kind of like Johnny Manziel right now in a way, even though they were teammates at one point. He needs to get his life back on track before he can even start thinking about playing football again. And I think this is the right track for him to go on. And the Browns did say that they were intending to part ways or trying to trade for him, but as you previously said, he's on the reserve suspended list for now.
Yeah, he's indefinitely suspended until, say, he gets his act together, say he's all good to go. He could then meet with Roger Goodell, and it's up to Goodell if he wants to reinstate him or not, which I think he'll have a better chance at this point right now because he really took it upon himself to say, I'm suspended right now, not for this reason, but I need to go get right. So I think Goodell would understand that, at least, in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those things of like before it was the marijuana thing, right? Like you can say whatever you want about marijuana, but it is illegal and you can't do it in the NFL or in a lot of states in the U.S. But now it's switched to alcohol, which is something that is, good for him that he basically decided like, okay, I do have a problem with this. Let's go get this treated and everything else like that. Yeah, he might be suspended indefinitely now, and that's fine. But I'd have a lot more faith that Goodell would basically call it a year from now, right? Because basically he's not going to play this year. I think we pretty much understand that. And then after next year, maybe he gets suspended for a couple of games. But I think Goodell's going to be like, okay, maybe you've tackled one demon, trying to tackle the other one. Maybe they set him out for another 4 games and basically just say like, okay, now if any team wants to sign him, because the Browns have already basically said that they're going to basically move on from him, that they basically don't want to deal with this stuff anymore. And you see how good Josh Gordon is. I mean, when he was actually playing, 1,646 yards and 9 touchdowns with Jason Campbell, Brandon Weeden, and Brian Hoyer. Like, he was doing it with quarterbacks who none of us think are good quarterbacks. So, with Josh Gordon, he is so young. Like you said, he's, as far as like someone who hasn't been in the league very long, I mean, he's only 25 years old. He will get another chance probably because about a year from now he'll be 26 years old. And players are probably, or the teams will probably say, okay, we'll give him another chance. Maybe it's just a stench of the Browns because Browns. Or,
Browns keep browning.
The Browns keep browning.
Maybe the Patriots come along and Belichick's like, yeah, sure, we'll sign him.
I thought that.
Like it kind of fits, right? Like
I think of the teams that have been known to bring in players that maybe have had checkered past.
Right, Cincinnati.
The Niners have done that at times, not in a bad way, but they brought in guys that maybe had a stretch of the.
Especially when Harbaugh was there.
Yeah, because he liked to see the veteran guys. But
Dallas.
Yeah. Not even like I'm not saying like guys that sign like crap dudes, like not good dudes. I mean, teams that look for the upside in players that maybe had a tough stretch in their career. Cincinnati's a good example because a lot of times those guys get there and they're not an issue anymore. Dallas hasn't been a good track record. The Niners, unfortunately, with a lot of their arrests, those necessarily weren't guys they brought in with no knowledge of that, but you know what I mean. But no, Dallas, the Ravens have brought in guys that maybe had a stretch of their career where they lacked something and got cut or along the lines. Steve Smith, he was not an example of that sense, but he was past a certain point in his career where he still thought he could do it. There's a lot of people out there that if you can, especially NFL coaches, if you see good in somebody, they'll be willing to do so. But there's be a lot of teams that wouldn't dare. The Steelers, a team. As a fan of the Steelers, I always know whenever these kind of things come up. Like say it got so bad in New York that they want to just part ways with Odell Beckham, right?
Right.
I was like, oh man, well, how insane would it be if the Steelers got Odell Beckham Jr.? That's a fantasy in my head because I know it would never happen. That's an issue that, as a foundational philosophy, the Rooneys would never go near. And that's kind of what the Browns are showing now. Is they're like, we're happy you're doing this for you, but this has just been too much of a distraction for us as a team. And I understand them wanting to part ways, and it's tough. But I definitely think if he got healthy, I think a team would welcome him easily. He's arguably, when he played and he was healthy and playing, he was that year. I mean, there was a year he was the best receiver in football. So
right.
I think that he's had a lot of unanswered questions, but again, like you said, Jeremiah, he's 25 years old. So if he can make this work for him and get healthy, I think he'll have a bright future ahead of him as long as he can stay that way.
Yeah, and I think we all kind of agreed that this is probably his last stint with the Browns. I think we all agree that he's going to be gone from that team.
Okay. Yeah, I think we agree with that.
The coaches basically said as much.
Basically, his time with the Cleveland Browns are done. But I do see another team, signing him. Because how can you leave a guy, well, I wouldn't say leave him on the street because, he is in rehab getting right. So I think that might be the wrong phrase to use. But you can't leave the guy on the market that can provide this much potential. Because we've seen it, like you said, Alex, in 2013, he was probably the best receiver in football at that point. And he was doing it with guys that are career backups in this league. Imagine what he can do with that legit starter in this league.
We were talking about the same thing at the end of the sports show earlier with what Randy Moss did at certain points of his career with who was the quarterback?
Well, Spurgeon Wynn, he just couldn't do anything with because no one can do anything with
and
that.
And he couldn't do anything with Kerry Collins in Oakland either.
No, but there wasn't a lot going on in Oakland.
Yeah,
ever
at that point in time, that was
we were talking about like some of his best years. In, like,
no, because he had Todd Bowman. He was actually getting back-to-back 144 yards with him. Yeah. And I dare you, tell me what number he wore. I dare you.
Todd Bowman?
Yeah.
Number 3.
No,
it's 1 through 10, right?
Yes, it's 1 through 10.
Quarterbacks can wear 1 through 19. Don't pretend like that's
that's
a horrible thing to say.
But he went with Minnesota, New Orleans, St. Louis, and Jacksonville, all the teams that Todd Bowman played for. Like he played in the league for a very short amount of time. For total passing yards, it was 1,905 yards. Not a good quarterback, however, with Randy Moss. Back-to-back 140, at least 140. The other one's 158.
We're also talking about how with Culpepper he was amazing. And just Culpepper
he was.
Just because Culpepper could throw the ball 100 yards, and Moss could track it down. So, I mean, you got that at least.
Yeah, you basically couldn't overthrow Randy Moss even if you tried.
I don't know how many people could legitimately overthrow Randy Moss.
Culpepper would have been one of the only ones that could. Favre, I guess.
I think Favre did overthrow him, but then again, he was
I think maybe Colin Kaepernick a little bit because remember, Randy Moss was a part of the Niners the year they went to the Super Bowl.
Was Bowman number 8?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. See, 3 is almost an 8. There, it's like a half of it.
It's almost.
It's a half of 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were close.
Yeah. He played for a while. He was actually in the league until about 2009, 2010. He was in. I mean,
2010. Yeah.
It wasn't like I don't know if he ever really made teams, but he was around until then at least. Man, NFL knowledge. Spurgeon Wynn, Jeremiah. Do you know who he was drafted by?
Who?
Spurgeon Wynn.
No, tell me. You're the football knowledge guy here.
Do you know who he was drafted by, Anthony?
No.
You guys don't know who Spurgeon Wynn was drafted by?
I really don't.
I'll give you a hint. It was an AFC team.
Okay, what division? That's okay. You narrow it down to 16.
That'll give it away. He was drafted by the Browns.
The Browns keep drowning.
Yeah, that was one of the worst draft picks of all time.
Yeah.
That was the draft. He was one of the quarterbacks, one of the 6 ahead of Brady.
It was that. Oh, so it was that draft. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, all those quarterbacks before him, man.
The only one that was worth a grain of salt wasn't Pennington in that draft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the only one. Nobody else did anything.
Yeah, the rest of the guys are not even in the league. They didn't make it that long.
Duh. What were you gonna say?
Spurgeon Wynn has 585 total passing yards in his career. Matt Ryan almost had that last game.
Exactly. Roethlisberger has had almost that in a few different games.
Mm-hmm.
The career record for passing yards in a game, which has been approached, has been more than that. So, yeah, that guy...
not the best.
Not the best. As they say in baseball, Jeremiah, that's a swing and a miss.
Yes, it is, indeed.
All right, let's take our first break. We'll come back, and we have our For Real segment to take care of. So we'll be right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. All right, so we started the first segment talking about Josh Gordon and all the stuff that's happened with him, his future in the NFL and whatnot. Now we're going to go, for real, see if teams are good or not. He can be a team, can be a player, and everything else like that. So I'll start off with myself. So I got the Buffalo Bills, right?
Okay.
2-2, started off the season just awfully, right? You lost against the Ravens, you lost against the Jets. We've seen how bad the Jets are. Get a win against the Cardinals. Maybe the Cardinals are good. Maybe they're trash. Not 100% sure yet. And then you beat the Patriots. Be it that, they're on the third-string quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. And, now they got the next 3 games. They have at the Rams, winnable game, versus the 49ers, winnable game, and against the Dolphins, winnable game. So hypothetically, they could be 5-2 after that. And even if all of that happens, they have the Patriots, Bengals, and Seahawks after that. Is this team good? Is this team just average? It's hard to necessarily tell. You know, you have a quarterback in Tyrod Taylor who only has 700 yards passing, which isn't as good as Simeon, the quarterback for the Broncos. So I don't know exactly what you want to do with that. Yeah, LaShawn McCoy has almost 300 yards, and you got a couple of players on defense who have 4 sacks apiece in Alexander and Hughes. So their defense is good. You can see that with Rex Ryan. But the Bills are still a team that you kind of have no idea if they're good or bad.
I agree with you. I think that they flash good. They definitely are a team that Jeremiah and I have talked about before, a type of team that plays up to their competition, but they look flat against teams that they should beat.
Right.
I mean, obviously they put the beat down on the Cardinals, right? And then they just beat the Patriots. Mm-hmm. I think this defense I think any team Rex Ryan has ever been a part of has always had a capable defense.
Right.
Whether or not they execute is the question, but I think that at times you have a very capable defense, and I think the Bills are very capable regardless of all these injuries they have. I mean, currently you said the leader in tackles is Zach Brown in the NFL.
Right.
You have the number 3 and 4 players on the sack list right now are Buffalo Bills. Lorenzo Alexander, like you said, and Jerry Hughes both have 4, and that is tied, but again, they're still up there.
Yeah.
You have good production from your offense. Sammy Watkins is out for the year.
Yeah.
It looks to be, but weirdly enough, they're still producing. You have a quarterback that is a dual threat. He is somebody that makes you game plan for both of those things. And when it's tricky that you have to watch him run, then they have somebody in the backfield who's one of the best at avoiding and gaining yards when there's nothing in LaShawn McCoy. So there's a lot of pieces there that work. It's just this is one of the biggest question marks, I think, in every year since Rex Ryan's taken over there is they have so much that can work, and a lot of the times it doesn't work.
Right.
But I definitely understand what you mean, coming off 2 big wins. I think they were back-to-back, right?
Yeah,
they're back-to-back.
Yeah, and the Cardinals game was even more of a embarrassment
right.
And impressive performance from the Bills than I think the Patriots, because that's not a Tom Brady Patriots-led team. If that happened against Tom Brady, then I would say, yeah, that was more impressive than the Cardinals purely based off they held Tom Brady to 0 points. Along those lines, it was unfortunately Jacoby Brissett that was a quarterback in terms of looking back at that as more or less impressive. But so that's still a division win against a team that has been the best team in the division for getting close to a decade and a half almost. So
yeah, they haven't made the playoffs since 1999.
Yeah, I mean the Patriots.
Oh, the Patriots, sorry, yeah.
I'm saying they're it's other than the Dolphins one year, I think, and I want to say maybe the Jets one year. Mm-hmm. The Patriots win that division every year.
Yeah,
it's just a foregone conclusion when you're going through your previews. Jeremiah and I didn't have to do much in the AFC East preview. Well, who's going to win? Well,
that was the easiest.
That was the easiest one.
The easiest one.
Well, the Patriots are going to win. But I think this team is definitely a team that can be for real. Mm-hmm. I think their offense can't carry them though.
Right.
And I think the defense isn't good enough to stack up against AFC teams like a fully led Patriots staff or a Raiders offense or a Steelers offense or a lot of these teams, a Falcons offense in the NFC. I don't know if they can really match up with those powerhouses.
Yeah, and I think this team is what the record says they are. They're basically a 500 team.
That's a good way of saying it.
That's all I can say because they did have a couple of losses to Baltimore Ravens who look like they're having a bounce-back year, and that was probably their toughest defensive game of the year so far because they did lose that game 13-7. Yep. So they had a chance to win that game, but they couldn't. And for the Jets, they just couldn't stop Ryan Fitzpatrick at all. They made him look like Tom Brady in that game. And Matt Forte.
The Jets couldn't stop Ryan
Fitzpatrick?
The Bills?
The Bills, yeah.
Oh, I was like,
he's on their team. And then Matt Forte, that was his best game of the year, and he has fallen off since that.
Yeah.
But I think with that Arizona game, that caught everyone by surprise because we did not expect that performance from this Buffalo Bills defense against that. Well, an elite, I should say, that we all thought they were going to be elite Arizona Cardinals offense, and they haven't really showed that they've been elite so far.
True.
And New England, well, they're playing a third-string rookie, but they did still shut them out, so that is a pretty good win, and it is the NFL, so a win is a win. But looking ahead at their schedule, I actually think this Rams defense, I think it might be tough for them to play against. Because we saw how the Rams defense have played so far since that awful loss to the Niners in Week 1. For the last 3 weeks, they played really good, even though they allowed 31 points to the Bucs in Week 2. They beat some really good teams, especially like Seattle and Arizona, 2 divisional opponents. So I don't know if that's as winnable of a game as we think it is. But they can beat the 49ers. The 49ers are probably the worst offense. They're just dreadful.
Yeah, now that the Rams have figured it out, I would say the 49ers are pretty low down.
No, they're just dreadful. Like, come on, Blaine Gabbert is pathetic. That's all I gotta say. And the Miami Dolphins, that is probably going to be really competitive because it is a division game. But I do see them winning that game because Miami is just
They stink.
Yeah, yeah, they're basically. And that New England game, Week 8, so I think that's going to be the time when we see if this team is for real or not. Because they got New England Week 8, Seattle Week 9 before the bye week in Week 10. So I think those are the 2 weeks right there. We're going to see if this team is for real or not. So, and like Anthony said, they can go 5-2 at that point.
Mm-hmm. They could.
Yeah.
And they could be a team on the right, or they can be, 500 again.
Yeah, and they seem to cannot get over the hump a little bit since Rex Ryan has been there. Because remember, they've been in playoff contention last year, even almost the year before that. Mm-hmm. So they can't get over the hump. So maybe this could be the year, because if the Bills don't make the playoffs, then I think Rex Ryan's job with the Bills is pretty much over.
Yeah, I think it's gone.
Yeah, it's pretty much over. So this is an important year. So they're playing for the coach right now.
They're very true.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to my for real. And I'm going with Dallas Cowboys running back Ezekiel Elliott, who currently leads the league in rushing at 412 yards. The next closest behind him is Isaiah Crowell, 394 yards. Currently on the year, Ezekiel, like I said, 3 touchdowns, 4 rushes of 20 yards or more. He's not exactly hitting the home run rushes, but he's really consistent at gaining yards. He's averaging 4.4 on the ground. If you even look at his receiving numbers, not amazing, but he's got 44 yards, and he's been playing very well. He's probably the rookie of the year currently for the offense as it stands. Dak might give him a run for his money there.
If he plays the whole year.
Carson Wentz as well, I would say it's probably between Carson and Ezekiel right now, and Ezekiel's probably a little bit ahead because he does have one more game ahead in terms of the Eagles' bye week this week. But is Ezekiel Elliott for real? He's leading the league in rushing, like I said. He's playing well. He looks poised at times. I feel like sometimes he's almost underwhelming to watch because it doesn't always seem like he's hitting the big home runs. So you're like, oh, he's not having a great game. And you see his stat line at the end of the day. He's currently averaging 103 yards per game. He's fumbled the ball twice, so that's not a good thing. He's lost it once, though, but 2 times on 94 carries, you'll take that ratio. So my question to you guys, is he for real?
I would say, yeah, he's for real, because you take a look at, a rookie running back, something like that. He started off against the Giants, 51 yards, 83 yards next week against the Redskins, then 140 and 138. Now, I understand it was against the Bears and the 49ers, both of which aren't good defensive teams, but he has to get acclimated to how to basically play in the NFL, and maybe he was a little bit too amped up for the first game of the season against the Giants. It's one of those division games. They're kind of relying on him. You don't know how good Dak Prescott is, even though he showed some stuff in the preseason, still the preseason. And I think just like slowly his average has gone up. So 2.6 average as far as rushing yards in week 1, then 4, now 4.7 and 6. So slowly he's gotten a little bit better. Now you're going to have the game against the Cincinnati Bengals this week, which should show a little bit more of a test than the last 2 weeks, but I think he's at least getting a little bit more comfortable, right? Because you see on the other side, as far as Todd Gurley, who has absolutely struggled this year. He hasn't been the player that we'd hoped he would be, at the very least, for Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah, he may not keep it up with 412 yards. He may not have 1,600 yards by the end of the year, but he's at least someone who's been, been able to be relied on. And also you have to remember that offensive line that the Cowboys has is really, 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 really good. And, maybe he's not the best running back in the league as far as leading the league in rushing, but that offensive line will help out a lot of people just to basically get your confidence up and get the numbers up.
Jeremiah?
And I do think he is for real because of that offensive line that he's playing with. He is so lucky as a rookie to play with that offensive line, and he was lucky to play Chicago and the Niners back-to-back weeks because they're probably both of the worst defensive teams in the league. But he saw some really great things, even in games that he didn't have a huge rushing numbers, like the Washington Redskins. He played really well. I know he struggled in the first game of the year, but come on, that's his first NFL game, and do you really expect him to really come on on fire in his first game right away. Like he's a rookie, okay? We gotta remember that he's a rookie first and foremost. But Anthony did say that his average per rush did climb up, and it's currently at 4.4 currently as we speak. But looking ahead at the Cowboys' schedule here, they do play Cincinnati, which could be a tough defense to play against, and they play Green Bay, and that is a tough. They've been tough against the run this year.
They have, yeah. They really
so
have.
I'm gonna say these next 2 weeks we're gonna really find out what he can do against like a good rushing defense before the bye week, and that Philly game. They also been a really good defense as well. So I think we're going to find out to see how good Ezekiel really is, but I do think he is someone that is for real. He is the perfect running back for this team. And remember, they took him early. People said that it was a reach to get Ezekiel at number 4, but he's perfect for this team because if Ezekiel Elliott wasn't on this team, Alfred Morris would have been the starter. Like, we don't know. Maybe Alfred Morris
looked good in the preseason.
Yeah, maybe Alfred Morris could have had the same numbers. We don't know that, but Ezekiel just has that much more talent than Alfred Morris does.
I understand you there. I understand. Okay, I get you. Well, let's move to your for real. Let's do that. What you got?
I want to talk about this Atlanta Falcons team right here and this offense. Put up some video game numbers on Sunday against Carolina. You kidding me?
Those are kind of
Matt Ryan
games too.
had over 500 yards. Julio Jones had 300. Okay, Julio Jones has 488 receiving yards this year. 300 of them came in one game.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and then they look like the best offense in football right now by far, and they're first in the league in yards per game and passing yards per game. Even though they had they haven't had ran the ball as well, but they do have that committee there in Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, who they both look serviceable at times too. So I do think this Atlanta Falcons team, I think this team is for real because I really thought they were going to struggle against this Carolina Panthers defense, and this defense is still pretty good, but man, they didn't. That defense did not have an answer for Julio Jones or Matt Ryan against the pass, and I think we're going to find out how good this offense really is on Week 5 when they head to Denver and they head to Seattle. These next 2 weeks here, they're playing away at Mile High and at Central League Field. So I think we're going to really see what this offense is really made of. But don't get me wrong, I don't expect Julio Jones to get 300 yards every game. I don't expect Matt Ryan to get 500 yards every game. But I do expect this offense to be good enough to compete against great defenses, and I think we're going to find out what this offense is really made of for the next 2 weeks when they head to Denver and Seattle. So I just got a question. Do you guys think this Atlanta Falcons team is for real? Remember, they're in first place right now, NFC South.
I don't know, man. It's hard.
It is hard. Like I said, that's why I said these next 2 weeks I think we're going to find out.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if anybody can keep up this pace. Personally, that is an insane pace to have offensively. I don't know if they can keep that up. I think it's going to be tough. I really do. I think, these next few games are going to be telling as to how exactly they're going to look throughout the rest of the year. I think that they can win games because of this offense. I think their defense has been improved. It definitely isn't what it was last year.
Yeah, it's a lot better. Yeah.
So I don't know if they can be for real in terms of this offense. I don't know if they can keep this up, but I definitely think they can keep winning games. Personally.
Yeah, that's what I said too. I think the Falcons team as a whole is for real because they can win games, but it's going to be tough for me to see what they can do against like great defenses. Because if they continue to win games, how are they going to fare against tougher competition in the playoffs? Mm-hmm. Teams that play defense and run the ball really well, because they're going to try to keep this offense off the field for a team that runs the ball. Like, for example, Seattle, they're probably going to run the ball with Christian Michael to keep Matt Ryan off the field. And then Denver's probably going to do the same thing with C.J. Anderson. If Paxton Lynch or Trevor Siemian, doesn't matter. They're going to try to keep this offense off the field no matter what. And they play good defense as well. So these both teams have the talent to do that next 2 weeks.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, I understand that the Falcons are playing well. They're 3-1. Last year they started off 5-0. Right? Like, we've seen the Falcons kind of do this whole thing where they start off 5-0. That fifth win was against the Redskins in overtime. Everyone's happy. Then they basically win one game until so they go start off 5-0, and then after that they become 8-8. So, like you've seen it last year, and like you said, the schedule that they have coming up at Denver, at Seattle, find the Chargers, and then Packers division game against the Bucks, at the Eagles, Cardinals, Chiefs. Like they have a hard schedule for the rest of the year. So maybe they can win a couple of games against, say, the Chargers, maybe the Buccaneers to get a win, and maybe even the Cardinals. But the Packers, the Broncos, the Seahawks, like those games are too hard to win. Like we've seen what the Broncos can do. We've seen Von Miller just be a freak of nature on the defensive side, and the Seahawks are basically re-emerging as the Seahawks, just minus Marshawn Lynch. I understand Julio Jones is great. I understand that Matt Ryan basically sees Julio Jones and just like, oh, I'm going to throw to him now every single time. Which,
yeah, pretty much. That's what he did on Sunday.
I mean, to be fair, that's not a bad strategy. Yeah. I would do the same thing with A.J. Green or Antonio Brown. Like I would do the same things with them. It's what Matt Stafford did forever with Calvin Johnson. It was just like, oh, there he is. I'm going to throw to him. I don't care if there's 3 guys around him. So their offense will be fine. It's just the defense, like they've been giving up points. The lowest they ever gave up was 28 points against the Raiders. They gave up 31 to the Buccaneers, 32 to the Saints, and 33 to the Panthers. And they gave up those 33 to the Panthers, a lot of it without, or a handful of it without Cam Newton.
2 touchdowns.
So, I mean, like the team, defense may be better, but it's still nothing. If you're going to go against the Broncos, like you're going to, have to score some points with them, and they're going to give up points as well. The Seahawks, we've seen, even with a bum leg, Russell Wilson's still pretty good quarterback, and as bad as the Chargers are, they can score points. Like Phillip Rivers still, minus their best wide receiver with Keenan Allen, still putting up yards. So like I could see the Falcons maybe going, like I said, maybe 8-8, something like that. But as far as for real, like making the playoffs, I can't see that.
Yeah, and it's going to be really hard for this team to make the playoffs because I do think Carolina's going to bounce back soon. And I don't see the Saints either winning this division, but. I was looking at their schedule, and they can easily go 0-4 the next 4 games because, Denver, Seattle, even the Chargers can score some points, like Anthony said.
Right.
And the Green Bay Packers, which, they don't have a great defense, but they also have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. And Aaron Rodgers, most arguably probably the best quarterback in the league right now, most arguably. So, yeah.
That sounds good. I mean, we'll have to, keep an eye on all these players, see how for real they, players and teams, and see how for real they really are. But until then, let's take our last break. We'll come back and we'll do our Wide Left Wednesday segments, and we'll get out of here. Let's take a last break here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, and we are doing our last segment of the day, which is Wide Left Wednesday. Since Anthony started, I will go ahead and start with mine. And it has to do with Steve Young. I'll explain that further. Anthony started on the For Real segment, so I'll start on this segment.
Okay.
So it has to do with Steve Young and a weird encounter he had when he was playing football. He just released a book. This is an excerpt of the book. So pretty much the story goes, it's when he was playing for the Buccaneers still. So this is the mid-'80s, before he was even a part of the 49ers. He, of course, was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back then. But so the story goes, as said, partway through the second quarter, I'm in the huddle when the head referee taps me on the shoulder, says, "Can I talk to you for a second?" I step away from the huddle. He says, "Hey, listen, my daughter's going to BYU," he whispers. Next thing I know, he starts trying to convince me that I should meet his daughter. "I'd like you to take her out," he says. "I cannot believe this. We're in the middle of a game." I said, okay, what's her name?" He tells me, and I return to the huddle. So many of those of you know, he goes to BYU. He went to BYU. He's actually a descendant of Brigham Young. So, yes, he played his college career at BYU, so clearly the connection there. So he said if that was the end of it, it'd still be an excellent tale worthy of inclusion in any life story, but that is not the end. He goes on to say, late in the game, we're down 31-23, and I'm trying to mount a comeback. I scramble out of the pocket. I take a brutal hit, which he's known for doing quite often in his career. He says it causes me to fumble just before the whistle blows to stop the play. I'm lying there on the ground when the defense recovers the loose ball, all but sealing our defeat. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a yellow flag lands next to me. The referee, whose daughter is headed to BYU, calls a personal foul on the defense. First down, Tampa Bay. I get up and brush myself off, and then the ref walks past me and whispers, "She likes Italian food." So pretty much, they found the game. What they could make from the game description was that it was December 15th, 1985, so mid-'80s again. They could not figure out who the mystery official was. And it says, did Young ever call that BYU incoming freshman? It's pretty unclear. My thing is kind of weird is incoming freshmen are typically 17, 18 years old. Mm-hmm. He is in the NFL, which means he's probably at least 22 to 23.
Right. Yeah.
But I understand maybe this guy's favorite player is Steve Young, and maybe he wants his daughter to be set for life. But apparently a referee threw a call a little bit there for Steve Young to get him to take his daughter out on a date.
That's like that he did a call like how referees would call nowadays, just a personal foul, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it'd
be a roughing passer, yeah. And all I gotta say is, wow.
You gotta say is wide left.
Why? That's very wide left. That's the most wide left story we have here.
I thought that one's pretty funny.
Yeah, that was pretty
it makes me want to pre-order his book, honestly.
Yeah. I think I might check it out.
Let's go, Jeremiah.
I like how you did that little pointing.
I was going to like this past both of you. You.
Well, anyways, for you guys that happen to watch that Cleveland Browns and Washington Redskins game for some reason, there was kind of a quote-unquote questionable call from line judge Sarah Thomas. And for you guys that don't know who Sarah Thomas is, I think she was the first female official in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which, she does a great job. I don't ever notice any difference.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I think she does a really great job. But
great.
Apparently she had she kind of missed a call here. So on this play during the fourth quarter, the Redskins were up 24-20, and Duke Johnson, the Cleveland Browns running back, he fumbled the ball with 9 minutes and 41 seconds to go. So the ball somehow gets lost in a pile. Then he comes out, and Duke Johnson is raising the football with his right hand for Thomas and for the rest of pretty much the audience that is watching this game. But Thomas is looking at this pile full of players because they look like they're still scrambling for the ball. And then Thomas signals for the possession for the Redskins there. So, technically Duke Johnson fumbled the ball and he recovered it, but the call went to the Redskins. And it's been probably one of the kind of the wackiest plays this week or this season so far. Yeah.
There's been some weird plays this season. Sometimes those are wacky calls to make. When you have a big pile of people all over the place, you don't really know who has the ball, when the ball was downed, when it was exchanged in terms of possession. Those are hard for any ref.
It's hard to be an NFL ref in general.
Those are hard for anybody, let alone trying to replay them. You can't get a good view of them. It was definitely a wacky call, at least I guess more so a wacky moment. I don't blame anybody for not getting a call right. That's insanely hard.
Yeah, like I said, it's hard to be an NFL referee. That's probably like one of the hardest jobs in sports. It's hard to be referee in any sport for that matter.
Yeah, I feel like I would be better at NFL refereeing than probably basketball refereeing.
Basketball.
I don't know a lot of basketball calls.
Yeah.
I know almost all the NFL calls. I have a buddy that's a ref, and obviously I've watched football for so long, and the way I look at football, I learn all the intricacies of football. I think I would be best at umpiring, followed by baseball, followed by maybe basketball, maybe soccer. I don't know. Those are both pretty hard. I feel like soccer's a really hard one. You got to run.
Soccer's really weird. I was a soccer ref. It was don't do that.
You got to be conditioned for that. You got to be really good condition. If I were to be a ref, I think I can be a really good.
You'd be a boxing referee.
I think I could be a really good wrestling referee, and I used to wrestle in high school, so that's why. And it's a kind of I wouldn't say easier sport to ref, but I kind of know more of the calls in that sport because I did it myself. So I think that's a sport I'm more suited to ref.
I think you'd be a really good line judge.
No.
Chain gang.
I'll be the chain gang.
I was a chain gang one time. I went back to where I played high school football at, and I was visiting. I was down the sideline talking to some of my old teammates and stuff before the game, and I guess the people didn't show up for chain gang, so I was like, "Oh, I'll do it, whatever."
Chain gang is easy.
It is.
Yeah.
I got paid for it, so
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
All right, Anthony, last but not least, let's get your wide left Wednesday story.
Okay, so here's the thing. So I had an idea, and then I was basically told, like, hey, we're doing football. Why are you doing something on basketball? And that makes total
Dang it,
sense.
Jeremiah.
What?
No,
I said it was fine.
No, it totally makes
Ruined
sense.
I said it
So
was fine.
I was going to talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo and Stacey King saying his name. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google it. It's great. He misses it terribly. Also, I was going to then talk about the fact that David Blatt got a championship ring, or at least he accepted one, even though he wasn't the coach and he was kind of unceremoniously fired. That's fine, cool. We're going to take all those to the side. Those things happen. They're wacky too. However, since the football podcast, all right, fine. So, Von Miller.
Yeah.
He did the Body Issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he did Dancing with the Stars, got a little bit more popular, everything else like that. So, they had,
Super Bowl MVP, no big deal.
yeah, so he's kind of been a more popular figure. So, you have him and Josh Norman, and you have this Bleacher Report story, and, you know, he's talking about when he did the Body Issue that the DMs that he's had have kind of been a little bit better since then. And then you got Norman who's like, stop. Really? He's like, no, they've been popping. Like, he's like, well, I guess I kind of need to do this Body Issue then. So they start basically going back and forth about, like, you know, if you do this Body Issue, like, yeah, you're an athlete and that's fine, that's cool. However, if you're on a magazine, maybe you should do it. You know, you have a little bit more fun. It's just like a weird exchange, kind of a funny exchange. He's like, you know, it was already good, but when they dropped the Body Issue, it's just like another level of thirst. It's like multiplied times 10. It's like a legion of thirsties, just bunched in all one place. So, like, he basically has said that whatever popularity I've had, if you want a little bit more, do the Body Issue. It will help you out, so to speak.
I mean, I understand it. That dude's got a good body. He's clearly fit.
Right.
And I guess I understand that.
Hey, man. Hey, it's going down the DMs. That's all I can say. It goes down in the DMs.
He's
In the DMs.
He's too one with the youth nowadays than me.
What, dude? I'm what? I'm older than you.
I said you're too down with the youth.
I
don't know these things that you say.
You know what the DMs are?
I know what those are.
Okay. Do you know what down? It goes
I can
down
imagine via slang.
Do you know what that is? That's a song.
I'm assuming
by
it's a
Yo
rap
Gotti.
song.
It's a rap song by Yo Gotti, and that's
That's a stupid rap name.
I'm not going to say that is stupid or not because this is a football show.
So we shouldn't be talking about rap, is what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. I just want to say that little reference. That was for the youngsters, man, that listen to the show.
Told you, he's down with the youngsters.
Yeah, man.
Well, on that note, no more from you.
No.
Go get ready for your baseball show.
Okay.
On that note, we're going to get going. Thank you for listening. As always, we'll be back tomorrow. We're going to preview the Thursday night games, whether college, whether NFL. Doesn't matter. We're going to be talking about them. And any news that might pop up in the time between I say goodbye and hello tomorrow morning. You like that? As always,
that was deep.
Thanks. As always, the three of us will be back. I am Alex.
I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And we'll see you tomorrow. You guys have a good day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.